Thank you everyone so much for coming to the spring intern closeout presentations. My name is Dakota Dolan. I'm the intern program manager, and I'm also the Forest Resilience Projects Manager with YVSC. And I'm so excited. This is the best day of the term when our interns are able to share all they've worked on over the last 12 weeks with YVSC, their projects, what they've learned, and their outcomes. Also, side note, there's donuts and coffee. I'm sure everybody noticed, but please take as much as you can handle. So if you're unfamiliar with the program, it's a 12-week professional experience that puts interns in collaboration with YVSC staff members. And this allows them to come up with a project together that addresses a need of the organization at this time, but also incorporates the interests, skills, and goals of the interns. And all of these projects are completely unique and are addressing one of our 5 main priority areas. So those are waste diversion, energy, transportation, resilient land and water, and community engagement. So I'm really excited for you to see what these 3 lovely ladies have been working on for the last 3 months. And typically we have our executive director give a warm welcome. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to be here today due to an unfortunate family emergency, but we do have, in lieu of her, the next best thing, Tim Sullivan. He's been our resilient land and water director and my personal supervisor, and he's just going to say a couple of quick words.
Thanks, Cody, and welcome everyone. I will channel Michelle because she would always say, this is the most exciting day of our season is when the interns give their final reports, because it's a culmination of a wonderful time working together. This program is, I think, great for the interns, but I know great for the staff, just because your presence around the office and your enthusiasm and energy and raising great ideas and questions helps us all, keeps us alive. This year we had the extra fun of having a construction project going on. So we're excited to hear about it, and I love that photo. I got to go out with the 3 interns and some other staff to Elmstone Farm, and it's just a wonderful chance. And our board member Terry Huffington was able to share her passion and vision for that place, which I thought just was a great way to connect us all. So this program is really an amazing opportunity to both build some professional capacity for future leaders in our community and elsewhere in the natural resources field, but also to have us gain that new perspective of seeing how our work looks from fresh eyes and giving us a chance. So I think you'll capture some of those insights when you hear these presentations. I'm looking forward to it. I haven't seen them yet. And as always, Cody does an amazing job of mentoring, but also bringing in lots of perspectives and an opportunity to share. So this really is an invigorating experience for not only YVSC, but the entire community that gets to interact with our interns. And I hear that from the people who come in and talk to you a lot as well. So I look forward to hearing this. Thank you all for coming, and I'll turn it back over to Cody.
Perfect. Thanks, Tim. So yeah, we will get started here. And just as a reminder, we will have a moment for question and discussion after each presentation. So if you think of anything, please don't hesitate to speak up when each intern is done sharing. And for those of you that are joining us online, please just write your questions into the chat, and then we'll have Sally read the question aloud so that everyone in the room can hear it. So without further ado, we will start with our first intern, Bri Hicks.
Hey guys, my name's Bri Hicks, like Cody said. I was the Resilient Land and Water intern for YVSC this spring term, and my project encompassed training and education around wet meadow restoration. And through that, I was able to build a 3D One Rock Dam model, so you can see right here, and an educational video. A little bit about me. I was born in Texas, and I moved to the Front Range area around Fort Collins in 2016 with my family. There I had a lot of access to the Poudre Canyon, Rocky Mountain National Park, and really exploring those areas gave me so much love for the natural world, and I connected on a deeper level, and it made a really big impact on my life. So much so that I went to college, got my associates at Front Range Community College, And I didn't quite know what I wanted to do after that, but I knew I wanted to be outside. I wanted to be making an impact and working in the environmental field. So that led me to moving last May, almost hit 1 year of living in Steamboat, where I moved here and I worked with Rocky Mountain Youth Corps in partnership with the U.S. Forest Service. I did a little bit of trail work and managed developed recreation areas. This winter, I got the privilege of teaching ski school. You can see the crazy kiddos there. And just working with youth really gave me that more purpose of wanting to make an impact so that when they're my age, that they can be exploring these areas and have the same opportunities that I had growing up. My staff mentors were Michelle Stewart, the Executive Director of YVSC, Ryan Messinger, the Natural Climate Solutions Project Manager, and Cody Dolan, Forest Resilience Project Manager. Short thank you to you guys. You've been incredible, such great mentorship, and I'm really inspired by the work you're doing right now. So, background. This would be YVSC's need and community need for my project. Currently, we are re-wetting the sponge in California Park. So what I mean by that is California Park is a wet meadow that is north of us. And currently, there's 20 miles of high priority streams to be restored and preserved in that area. And as you know, winters in Steamboat are long. So who's partnered with us is Rocky Mountain Youth Corps, the U.S. Forest Service, YVSC Climate Crew, and other local volunteers go out there in the summer months to do this restoration work. And jumping back to winters are really long in Steamboat, during that time, we can't really bring people out to California Park to do that restoration and training them on how to do it. So this model and video will provide YVSC with that opportunity to do it in the winter months and spring and in between whenever we can't get out there. And then an accessibility need, not everyone obviously can go out to California Park. So this will give our community an opportunity for people who can't go out there to come by and take a look at the model and do that work with their hands. And then, yeah, long-lasting impact. This model and the video will stay at YVSC long after I leave, and I'm excited for them to get to use it for education. So I've said a lot about wet meadows, but what are they? They form between hills and sagebrush steppes where runoff from snowmelt and rain gather in imperial streams. So they flow in what we call sheet flow. You can imagine a piece of paper sitting over a wet meadow, and this piece of paper is the water, and it's slowly soaking into the meadow. And that's what we want, is a slow soak of water. And then we want it to slowly release as well. So you can imagine a sponge, and that's why we say we're re-wetting the sponge. And the benefits of this are when we get that native vegetation growing back in the wet meadow, it's going to benefit wildlife and give them some high quality forage. So what has been going wrong? Why are these wet meadows in need of restoration? Ungulates, which are hoofed creatures, trail through these valley bottoms and they create these trails. You can see in the top picture, that would be like trail, channel, kind of intertwining those terms. And water falls into these channels, and as water comes down, you know, it creates more erosion. So these channels are getting dug out faster and the water is moving faster, and that's not what we want. We want it to slow down. And so how do we get that to slow down? And how do we restore these wet meadows? Well, Bill Zedike was a U.S. Forest Service hydrologist, and he developed a lot of different restoration techniques that were derived from the indigenous people of the Southwest. One of those being a one rock dam, which is what the model is, and there's plentiful of other structures that you can read about in his book. A lot of these structures are referred to as low-tech process-based restoration. Low tech, meaning we're not bringing heavy machinery out into the wet meadow to dig up these big rocks and move them. We're using our own hands, and volunteers and Rocky Mountain Youth Corps, all those people I was talking about are doing this work. And then process-based, meaning we're using the natural process of water moving down. So when water comes down the channel, at least for this one rock dam, it's going to come down over here where the rocks are low, come up and slowly work its way over the dam And as it's doing that, it's gonna deposit soil, and through years of that happening, the soil could bring up the channel and that native vegetation can grow on top, regrading the area. And I'll show you a picture of what that looks like. So the picture to the left is before we showed up, and that's what the channel looked like. And then the middle is once the One Rock Dam was built. And then the far right picture is 1 year later, and you can really see where that soil has been deposited and plants are starting to grow back. So. The objectives for my project were to first create the One Rock Dam model. Here's some pictures of it being used at EarthFest and at the Rocky Mountain Youth Corps presentation, and then create the One Rock Dam model. I had to add this silly picture. This was when we were filming it. Ryan had my script on his shoulder and a camera in one hand. Kind of some low-tech production, but we made it work, and yeah, it was a good time. And then after that, I was able to present my model to Rocky Mountain Youth Corps, and I used that as a pilot presentation for what we needed to tweak, what rocks were not working, what words were not working, and I was thankful for that opportunity because after that, I was able to go to EarthFest, which Willa will tell you all about, and present there to community members, CMC students, and yeah, it was wonderful. So the methods for my project first started out with research. I did most of my research based on the Gunnison River Basin and the work they're doing there. It pretty closely mimics California Park and the restoration that's happening out there. Next was my cost analysis, which you can see in the top right-hand corner, kind of a breakout of the budget I made for this project. And then collecting materials for the model. I kind of went on a drive through steamboat and stopped by all the places I thought would have cardboard. And turns out there's so much more cardboard in this town than I ever would have expected. So it was not that hard to find cardboard. Yeah, just to build up the sides and the channel of this model. And then last but not least was filming the educational video, which I talked about a little bit before. So some key takeaways of this project was I really think we're going to be seeing more low-tech process-based restoration and conservation. I think right now is a great time to be using low-cost restoration, and that's what this is. And as our climate is changing, there'll be more opportunity for us to get out there and restore these areas. Hands-on learning provides a deeper feeling of connection and understanding. So as I was sitting at EarthFest and presenting to people, I really got to see this in action. As I'm talking to them about wet meadow restoration, it's like, I know what you're saying, but it's not fully clicking. And then when people really get in there and start moving the rock around with their own hands, they're like, oh, this is totally something I can do and be involved in. And it was really cool to see the impact of that. And then having a One Rock Dam model gives ability to teach with schools and colleges. I'm just really excited for YVSC to have the opportunity to bring this into different areas within the community. And yeah, it's a great bridge to connect people together, I think. So YVSC had so many activities that I got to be a part of, and I want to talk to you a little bit about those. We hosted a YVSC craft day, which really was just the staff coming together to help me with my project. But I'm thankful for it, and we had fun while doing it. Actually, there was a lot of different renditions of how we were going to create those rocks. And the craft day was a test of who has the best idea. So we got that figured out, and then YVSC game nights, which was really fun to connect with the staff. They have just created and cultivated such a great family there, and being a part of that was truly special. And nights like game nights really brought everyone together, and it was great. And then EarthFest, which again, Willow will talk to you all about, was such a cool opportunity for the community to come together for Earth Day. Every week we had a guest speaker come in that Cody would bring the best people. City council members and county commissioners would come in, and also just everyone in the environmental field. So as someone in their early 20s who is not entirely sure what my next step is in life and where I want to go career-wise, having mentors and people like that to step in and speak to me was so beneficial. I was really able to learn all the different paths I could go down, and yeah, very thankful for that. And then YVSC moving day, being a part of such a huge stepping stone for YVSC, now owning their own building, and just, yeah, a big stepping stone, was really cool to be a part of. And then last but not least, our Elkstone farm tour. Yeah, being able to step into a warm greenhouse was like, oh, summer's coming. So that was awesome. And then personal takeaways, I, through this internship, was able to improve my professional writing skills. I learned in depth about wet meadow restoration structures, gained skills in research, learned the many paths and backgrounds that can kickstart a career in the environmental field, and I was able to improve time management and executive functioning skills. So thanks for all that. And then I wanted to acknowledge Rocky Mountain Youth Corps for the opportunity to do that presentation, which acted like a pilot presentation for me. And then Ski House, Paws and Claws, thank you for donating materials. Nate, thank you for helping me with my presentation and giving your time to review it. Abby and Sally, thank you so much you guys gave me such good feedback and really supported me through my internship, so I appreciate that. And then Willa and Maddie, my fellow interns, thanks for being such a great part of our team we built up. I've really enjoyed my time with you. And then Cassidy Mefford, my great friend, thanks for helping me write my blog posts and giving me all your great knowledge. And then any questions? Yeah.
I have a question, Bri. Was it your idea for the former band to make this, or whose idea was it? Because it's really unique.
Yeah.
And an amazing idea.
Ryan threw out the idea of a need for that. And then there was a few other projects, and I like to consider myself sometimes a creative person. And so I jumped on that and I was like, oh, this is something that I could physically do with my hands. So yeah, that was the project I chose, and I'm really glad I chose it. Yeah, Tim?
Great job, Bri. It's a very nice explanation of what wet meadows are, and that's great, and a chance to do it. And on that note, I'm curious, when you presented this, like I've heard best in other places, people had no idea what this was. What kinds of questions or reactions did they have once they could figure it out?
Yeah, people kind of would understand based on I had a family come in from Craig who knew about agriculture, and so they kind of knew about moving water around and could relate it to that. But people were fascinated by this, and I don't think they realized how simple it could be, and that they also could just build a structure like this. So that was, yeah, the feedback I got.
I will say one feedback that one of our volunteers likes to repeat that when they signed up to volunteer, they thought we just put one rock down.
Yeah, it's one rock high. Yeah. Yes, Nate. Thank you.
The structure for this camping array out there for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I'm curious, do you see the model as being able to model mistakes people might make while doing this in practice?
Yeah, I can point out a few that I made setting it up right now. Definitely. So if there is on this first stack of rocks, these are called our book stack rocks because they're put in like a bookshelf. And let's say this one was up here like this. So when water's coming over, it should hit it and fall over. So yeah, just pointing out little things like that to catch. And then if there's big gaps within the structure, water will come through and just, yeah, come through only that area, which is not what we want. We want it to spread out. So catching little things like that is great for the model. Yes, Ryan.
First of all, like really nice job with this.
Thanks.
This is, like you said, it's gonna be a YVSC for a long time. I think a lot of people are gonna emulate some of this model, so it's a cool legacy to leave behind. What are some tips you have for somebody who would be building a one rock dam?
So I would have, well, first, never fall in love with a rock. So yeah, what I mean by that. Oh, I know. is when people go out into the field and start doing this restoration, they'll pick up a rock and be like, oh, this is the best rock. Place it down and it doesn't work at all within the structure. And then you end up spending hours trying to like make it kind of work, but it's really not working. So yeah, don't fall in love with a rock. And then I like to tell people to start in the middle with the big rock and then work your way up the sides. And then you're supposed to make it look like a coworker smile. So when you pass your coworker in the hall and you don't really know each other, but you kind of do, you do a little. So yeah, that's the shape you're wanting to make. Yeah, Cass.
How do you find so perfectly like rectangular rocks?
Oh.
Are you able to do this with like round? Or they would
Yeah,
fall?
so that's just because I didn't make round rocks. We used gymnastics block foam and then wrapped it in paper mache to make these rocks. And when you're wrapping with paper mache, it was kind of starting to look really funky if we didn't do it like this. So when you're out in the field, it would be just usually normal rocking look rocks.
And
Yeah.
then my next question is, I know you're gonna be done with your internship, like formally, but are you interested in bringing this model to Yampa this summer and teaching the kids how to do a one rock dam, and then we'll take them to Burgess Creek or Fish Creek and try it out?
I would love that. That
Cool.
sounds incredible. Okay, yeah. Well, thank you guys. Oh, yes. Yes, Lane. Thank you.
You mentioned something about how this helped inform your thought process about what might be next for you.
Mhm.
I'm curious, you know how there's the idea of a job, and then there's pieces of the day-to-day reality. So
Hmm.
I'm curious, what are the things that you've experienced personally where I'm at sort of sorting is, oh, specifically, I do now know that I like this stuff.
Yeah.
Doing these kinds of work day to day, and what fell out into the, not so much in the future category. What have you learned about your own strengths and interests?
Yeah, I've learned that it means the world to me for what I'm doing to feel purposeful. I have a lot of time putting effort and time into something that I don't feel like is making a bigger impact than just me and my life. So I think that's number one. And then time getting to be creative or being around people or being outside, not just sitting in front of a computer is what I'm saying. I really value that. And so maybe 70% of that and then 30% of office work would be the ideal job. But yeah.
Can I make a comment real quick
Uh-huh.
on that too? I think Bri would always show up when she didn't really have to be there. So you came in all the time and you were at the office a lot. So I think she enjoyed it quite a bit, and she did more work than she really needed to sometimes, especially with moving the office, which is not fun. And I just want to say, as a team in the afternoon, we came up with about 4 rocks together, and it like blew our minds. It was like really hard to get anything to stick, so that you made all those and they looked like that is amazing to me, because it was not that easy, was it?
Well, thank you,
And
Sally.
we have one question
Oh,
on
yeah.
chat, if you don't mind.
Okay.
This is from Rachel Long,
Oh.
and she says, are you seeing a need for restoration in California Park from ungulates only? Or is there also a need due to increased recreational use from humans, or etc.?
Yeah, if you've ever been out to California Park, you know, there's not a whole lot out there. It's a beautiful area, but I guess maybe hikers, people walking through could also make that. But yeah, I think for the most part, it is animals and yeah. Mhm.
Say in other places, they've noted like there's trails that are from wagon trails back in the day that started that erosion. That's kind of how a lot of these started in Mexico when this work was first started. So there's a lot of reasons, but in California Park specifically, it's resilient.
Thanks, Ryan. All right. Thank you, guys.